Well, hi, this is Customworks, and I'm Clint Allen. And what have we got here? I've got a friend who has had me tow this around the 3-county area for multiple years, and I don't think this thing is started in about 7 years, so we're gonna see what we're up against here, get this running. No maintenance whatsoever done to this truck. I know this man very well. I've known him most of my life. He's got a heart of gold, but when it comes to maintenance, well, he differs from me, that's for sure. If I have a brake pad get below 50%, I'll replace the brake pads on both sides, cut the drums or the rotors, make sure that the calipers are working correctly, and depending on my feelings of maintenance, sometimes I'll even just rebuild them so I know I have good brakes. Well, we're talking about the frugal here, where if we have one bad brake pad, I'm not talking about the set, I'm like, if we got one bad brake pad that's rubbing up against the rotor, that's all we replace. So there's a fine line between frugality and stupidity, but that's just me. We'll get into some other stupidity here too, of the reason why I started doing this on YouTube, but let's take a moment here and soak it in. It's at my storage yard is where I towed it into. He has just given me the truck. Wanted to take it to my shop right away, but we'll discuss that here in a moment of why I didn't. Now, I remember when he got this truck, this was a county truck at one point in time. It was in beautiful shape. And like every vehicle he owns, it just is bashed and smashed to smithereens. She's got a lot of heavy rust. Take a look-see inside here real quick. It's definitely a fleet truck. You know, county truck, they don't make them fancy. It's just definitely just a good old fleet truck. Basic bones, everything. 5-speed transmission. We'll check on the miles later. I don't even know how many miles it has. I don't think it's got that many. But I didn't bring it to the shop because, if you can see, all the little bits and pieces of torn paper, all the little shells, she had a lot of mice in her, and I really don't want to be chasing mice around the shop, either one of them. You know, door doesn't close because the cab's all racked. Got mismatched tires. Basically, there's not much on the body that's savable at all. Everything has just definitely seen her days. It's definitely got weight removal everywhere. And mismatched tires, mismatched rims. It was a really nice truck when he got it. But let's pop the hood and take a look-see underneath here, see what we're dealing with. My goodness. So even though that this has sat for a long time, I don't suspect we're going to have any real issues getting it up and running. But we want to do our normal, you know, 7.3 PSD walkthrough. This right here is going to fill that gap for the OBS folk who've been saying, hey, you know, geez, you got a lot of great information, but, you know, what about the OBS? This is going to be the perfect situation for that because nothing has been maintained. It needs an oil pan and pretty much needs everything else gone through. So almost from start to finish, you're going to be along for the ride. We're going to go through the whole engine. We're just going to pull it right on out. We're going to do the oil pan and basically darn near everything, rebuild everything. When I mean rebuild, we're not going to go to the parts store and buy an alternator and replace it. We're going to show you how to rebuild an alternator. You know, these components, starters, stuff like that have gotten just off the chart expensive. You can buy rebuild kits for all this. 1/8 of the cost. They're not that hard to do. Starters, the same thing. It's not that hard to do right in your garage, right at home. Don't need anything special. Everything is all orderable. I'll make sure that those videos have links of multiple places where to get them. But let's check the oil here. So we definitely got some black oil going on here. And let's make sure there's oil in the hop. Now this hop thing right here, and I've already broken this loose, but these plugs on here, yeah, you don't need to tighten them down where they're bleeding oil coming out of them. You put these things on there really tight, you're not going to get it off. You're going to end up stripping it. So just get her in there, snug it up, just a little bit of a turn after that. Just that's good. If you go in there and horse on it, you're not going to get it out. And then you got to remove the hop itself, the reserve oil itself, and order new parts. It's a pain in the keister. So we have got definitely no oil in the hop. That is all gone. Now that could have leaked out through the return where I showed you in one of our videos the spring in the ball and the crown. It could have leaked out through there. We could have ourselves also a bad low pressure oil pump because they will backfeed through that. But let me get some oil in here and we'll continue from there. So we just dug out some oil from the trailer. For this initial startup, it really doesn't make a difference, but we don't also want to have the cover fall in. Get that out of here. And let's give her a fill. Gloop, gloop, gloop. And of course, most of us know here, but if you're new to the POWERSTROKE thing, if you have a no start, this is one of the things that you want to check. Make sure that you've got oil in this reserve. All right, I got it literally filled to the top, but we're gonna give it a few minutes and see if it siphons down on its own. That clearly is something that we don't want to have happen, is for it to siphon down on its own. That means that we've got a really major leak going on. But we'll give it a few minutes and see where we're at. All right, so now that we're waiting on that, let's get this out of here. Nothing like putting a metal rod over the top of a battery. So the two batteries, what I meant earlier is the two batteries that I'm gonna throw in here. These two batteries I brought back from the grave, and once again another reason why I started doing this for YouTube. Bringing back a battery can be done, but these videos where they show dumping salt into the batteries, just refilling them, hooking them up to welders, don't do that. Bad idea. Bad idea. A welder does not have any safety relief, does not have a circuit breaker. The average person who's going to try to save their battery doesn't have the money to buy a good quality new battery, and they really don't know much more than what these clowns on YouTube are telling them. So when you hook up a welder to a battery and it's got a bad cell, or all the gloop that sits on the bottom that falls off, the lead plating, the plates, the divider sheets that sit in between, and I'm just doing this on a real basic level, okay? There is a technical name, but you know, let's just keep it real. That stuff falls to the bottom, and if it's still arcing out on the bottom, you still have a bad battery. Now the way that I do it is I hook the battery up, I remove the covers off the top of the battery so I can see inside, make sure that it has water. If one or two of them are low, basically I take some distilled water and I fill them up so they're all equal, and I'll hook it up to a battery charger. I've got the old-fashioned battery charger. It's got a 40 amp and a 200 amp start. Hook up the battery in 40 amp and I'll turn it on until I start seeing every cell hole bubble. Once they're all bubbling, then I know that I might have a battery that's worth saving. So at that point, I'll just turn off the battery charger. I'll let it rest for about a half an hour, and then I'll come back in at 200 amps. I'll cook that battery at 200 amps for 15 minutes. I'll get her bubbling. She'll be just splashing out of the holes. Now, that's acid in there, so you got to make sure that you're doing it in a safe environment. You got the gloves, you got the face mask, you know, you got to be careful. You get that stuff on you, yeah, it doesn't immediately start melting away your skin, but yeah, you'll know about it in the very near future. So safety is paramount here. So I'll cook it on the 200 amp circuit. Now, if there's an issue with the battery and it starts arcing out internally, well, the battery charger is designed to figure that out and the breaker will kick. You have it hooked up to a welder, boom! She blows up. Bad idea again with the welder. So anyways, after I get done cooking it, I immediately take it and I've got an acid tub, and I just literally dump everything out, dump out all the water, the acid, everything into the tub. I go through with warm distilled water mixed with baking soda. I fill them all back up again. I leave that sit for about a half an hour, and then I literally come back through with the hose, just regular hose water, and I'll just keep on filling up and letting it just over the top get all that gunk and garbage out of the battery. Then I'll empty it out. I'll leave it sit upside down for about an hour, get all that out of there, run down to the automotive store, and you can Google this. It'll tell you for the size of the battery, for the cranking, cold cranking amp, and everything, and once again the size of the battery, of how much acid. All battery stores sell battery acid. It'll tell you how much to fill up, top it off with your distilled water, and then I'll go through and put it on 200 amps 2 times, 15 minutes, half an hour break. Then I'll come back down to 40 amps 2 times and 15-minute breaks, and then I'll go through, see if I'm at anything north of 13.1 volts or 13 volts. And then also do a load test on it. If it passes the load test, we've got ourselves a reman battery, basically. You can do what they do on YouTube and come up with a voltage north of 12.6, but that still doesn't mean it's got the power to actually turn the vehicle over. So you got to have a meter in order to do the cold cranking amp test. If it doesn't pass the cold cranking amp test, you basically got a junk battery, and get rid of it. Save yourself the acid bath and the burning from the acid. But either which way, let's get this hooked up here. Now, we're not going to get fancy or anything. Just wanted to get this running, show you what's going to be coming down the pipeline in the near future here for everybody, everybody who's viewing, and especially for the OBSers. You know, and this is part of that frugality. You know, all he had laying around was a bunch of old marine batteries, so each his own, I guess, but there's a lot to be said for doing stuff right the first time. Right, so far we got nothing going crickle, crickle, spark, spark. Well, we're gonna have to get really downright creative here in order to get this all hooked up. And I tell you, we got just an absolutely fabulous day today. Got a nice breeze blowing right off the old ocean in the state. Perfect day for this. Well, let's get this on here. All right, so we got those all hooked up, and if I see a lot of interest in the comments about physically seeing how I redo a battery, I'll certainly go ahead and do that. Not a problem whatsoever. But we've got oil in the hop, and it's still in the hop. In the reserve, that is. So we're just gonna screw it back in. She's a little bit snug and a little bit just, oop, that's it. Don't hammer that thing tight. So we got oil in the pan, we've got oil in the hop, got some batteries hooked up. Hopefully the starter isn't frozen up. Otherwise we're gonna have to do some shade tree mechanic work here. All right, so we got the ignition on, and we'll just jump her right off of here. All right, we got a winner. So let's see what she's got for miles here. We got a 306,623, so over 300,000 miles. And I mean, it's really, it is really sounding good here. You know, those miles don't scare me at all. And even knowing the individual who really never did any service to it, I mean, you start them up, you just know right away. It's just something because of experience. And this sounds solid. The question is are we going to be able to find a different body for it? Because this is so far gone. And not a matter if you can find a body, can we find a body that's going to be, you know, affordable? You know, you don't want to bury yourselves in these things, but for the quality that I'm hearing here, we've definitely got a winner. So we're going to let her warm up, get that oil flowing through everything. We're going to change the oil in it so there's something fresh, because that probably is 4 or 5 year old oil in here. Make sure that the coolant isn't leaking. And I hope you enjoyed this. You know me, I like to get right to the point. You know, I like to skip over the dating, you know, the 10 taking her out to lunches, the, you know, temporary move-in period. I just like to get to the point. Boom. So I hope you've learned something today, and you take it easy, and you have a good day.